Dr. Amanda Sullivan hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the trembling of her hands came from excitement rather than exhaustion. The quantum imaging display stretched across the bunker's main wall, showing Jupiter's orbit in real time as reality itself seemed to tear open. The Zrixian warships emerged like predatory fish breaking through ice, sleek, deadly, and completely predictable. "Right on schedule," she muttered, taking a sip from her long cold coffee. The bunker, buried 2 miles beneath the Nevada desert, hummed with controlled tension. Her team of scientists and military personnel maintained their positions with practiced calm, though she caught several of them stealing glances at the main display. The Zrixian fleet was everything their deep space probes had predicted. 7 capital ships arranged in their species' sacred septimal pattern, each vessel stretching nearly 3 miles from bow to stern. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent material that their intelligence suggested could reflect most known energy weapons. Most known weapons, Sullivan thought with a hint of satisfaction, being the operative term. "Doctor, they're broadcasting," Lieutenant Parker announced from his communication station. "Standard frequencies, just like the Proxima intercept suggested they would." Sullivan nodded, straightening her lab coat more out of habit than necessity. "Put them through. Let's meet our guests." The quantum display shifted, revealing a being that, despite years of preparation, still made several junior officers flinch. The Zrixian ambassador's crystalline exoskeleton caught the light from their ship's bridge, sending rainbow refractions across their command center. Its multiple compound eyes focused with unsettling precision on Sullivan. "Inhabitants of Sol 3, the creature began, its translated voice carrying the artificial smoothness of their universal translator. "I am Grand Admiral Zixtal of the glorious Zrixian Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our dominion. You will surrender your military and governmental control within 1 planetary rotation, or face immediate cleansing. This is not a negotiation." Sullivan allowed herself a small smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. She glanced at the secondary display, showing the status of Project Prometheus. All systems green. All stations reported ready. 30 years of preparation, billions in black budget funding, and humanity's greatest technological achievements, all waiting for this moment. "Grand Admiral," she responded, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had rehearsed this conversation countless times. "I'm Dr. Amanda Sullivan, Earth Defense Initiative. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." The aliens' crystalline features shifted in what their xenobiologists had identified as amusement. "There is no misunderstanding, human. Your species' technological level has been thoroughly assessed. Your most advanced weapons would barely scratch our support vessels. Surrender now, and your population will be permitted to serve as Class 3 citizens within the Empire." Sullivan tapped a sequence into her console, bringing up classified files that only 5 people on Earth had access to. "You know, Admiral, humanity has a saying, never judge a book by its cover. But more importantly," she paused, making sure she had the aliens' full attention, "we have another saying. The best place to hide a tree is in a forest." The Grand Admiral's translator must have struggled with the idioms, because its response came after a noticeable delay. "Your metaphors are irrelevant. You have 1 rotation to." "No," Sullivan cut in, her voice sharp enough to make the alien pause. "We don't. Because while you were busy scanning our visible military installations, counting our satellites, and measuring our nuclear arsenal, you never thought to ask 1 simple question. Why would a species capable of detecting your approach 3 years ago still appear so primitive?" She entered the final command sequence. Across the globe, hidden installations began powering up. The quantum display showed new energy signatures blooming like stars across the planet's surface. "Welcome to Earth, Grand Admiral," Sullivan said, watching as confusion rippled across the alien's crystalline features. "You should have scanned deeper than our atmosphere. You really, really should have." The first warning alarms began blaring on the Zrixian bridge. Colonel James "Mad Dog" McKenna's boots echoed through Operation Prometheus's main chamber. a sound that always reminded him of thunder rolling through mountains. The facility, carved into the heart of the Rockies using classified alien mining tech, stretched nearly 10 miles in every direction. Not bad for something that officially didn't exist. Status report, he barked, striding onto the command platform that overlooked the massive underground hangar. Below him, rows of hybrid fighters gleamed under artificial daylight, their surfaces rippling with adaptive camouflage that made them look almost alive. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, his second in command, fell into step beside him. Project Chimera is at 98%, sir. All 17 systems are integrating exactly as Dr. Sullivan predicted. The Zrixians still haven't detected our subsurface power grid. McKenna grunted, his weathered face breaking into a fierce grin. 30 years of playing possum about to pay off. Show me the feeds from their fleet. The holographic display sprang to life, showing real-time imagery of the Zrixian ships. Their sensors were going crazy, trying to make sense of the energy signatures suddenly appearing worldwide. McKenna had waited 15 years for this moment, ever since they'd recovered that crashed scout ship in Kazakhstan. Sir, Hayes reported, the Chinese facility is reporting successful activation of their gravity wells. Russians have their Phantom Drive array online. Our European allies confirm their quantum shield grid is operational. And our birds? McKenna asked, already knowing the answer but wanting to hear it anyway. All 3,000 satellites are completing their metamorphosis now, sir. The Zrixians still think they're looking at weather and communication platforms. Hayes allowed herself a small smile. They have no idea each one contains a compressed antimatter core. The colonel walked to the edge of the platform, placing his hands on the railing. Below, engineering crews were running final checks on the fighters. Each one represented a different piece of stolen alien tech, rebuilt and improved by human engineers who'd never accepted the word impossible. Begin broadcast to all hidden installations, McKenna ordered. Authentication code. Prometheus Unbound. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers relayed orders and monitored the worldwide activation sequence. On the main display, thousands of points of light began appearing across the globe. Bunkers, hangars, and launch facilities that had been hidden for decades. Sir, a junior officer called out, Zrixian fleet is launching fighter squadrons. They're moving to investigate the energy signatures. McKenna's grin turned predatory. Right on schedule. Lieutenant Hayes, show them why we named this Project Chimera. Hayes nodded, entering commands into her console. Across the globe, humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself. The primitive satellites transformed, unfolding like mechanical flowers to reveal weapon systems that made their original alien designers look like amateurs. Ground-based installations that had masqueraded as nuclear silos opened to reveal gravity pulse cannons and quantum disruptors. Multiple contacts, another officer reported. Zrixian fighters entering atmosphere over Asia, Europe, and North America. Let them come, McKenna said softly. Time to show them what happens when you give humanity time to prepare. He opened a channel to all Earth Defense Forces. This is Colonel McKenna. Operation Sleeping Giant is now active. All units, execute your assigned protocols. Show these crystal bastards why you don't back humanity into a corner. The first Zrixian fighter exploded over Beijing, cut in half by a weapon they'd never seen before. A hybrid of their own plasma technology and human innovations in particle physics. More explosions followed as Earth's defense grid activated fully. McKenna watched the tactical display with satisfaction as the alien formations broke apart in confusion. Their rigid tactical doctrine had never prepared them for this. They expected a primitive species with basic spaceflight capability. Instead, they found their own technology turned against them, improved in ways their rigid minds had never considered. Sir, Hayes reported, trying to keep the excitement from her voice. Dr. Sullivan is requesting that you begin Phase 2. McKenna nodded, turning to face his command staff. Well then, let's not keep the doctor waiting. Launch all fighters. It's time to show the Zrixians why Earth's skies belong to us. Major Kate Phoenix Rodriguez watched her HUD light up as her squadron emerged from the underwater launch tubes of the Mariana facility. The ocean above them seemed to boil as 30 Chimera-class fighters broke through the surface at Mach 3, their hybrid engines transitioning seamlessly from hydro to atmospheric mode. "Phoenix Squadron, form up on me," she commanded, her neural interface translating thoughts to actions faster than voice commands. The fighters fell into formation, their dark matter engines humming with power that defied conventional physics. "Remember your training. Everything we've practiced for starts now." Above them, Zrixian fighters filled the sky like angry hornets, their crystalline hulls catching the sunlight. They were beautiful, Rodriguez had to admit, and completely obsolete. "Multiple bogies, bearing 270, her co-pilot announced. "They're using standard Zrixian attack patterns. Predictable, just like the simulations." Rodriguez smiled beneath her helmet. "Time to show them how humans dance. Phoenix Squadron, execute Maneuver Lazarus 1. Her fighter rolled sideways into what should have been an impossible turn, the dark matter core creating its own localized gravity field. The rest of her squadron followed suit, their ships moving in ways that violated every rule of aerodynamics. Around them, the air itself seemed to twist as their gravity corridors reformed spacetime. The first Zrixian fighter never saw what hit it. Rodriguez's ship seemed to materialize from nowhere, riding a self-generated gravitational wave that their sensors couldn't track. Her hybrid weapons, combining human railgun technology with alien plasma systems, turned the enemy craft into sparkling debris. "First blood to Phoenix lead," she announced. "Show them what Earth's finest can do." The sky erupted into chaos as her squadron engaged. The Zrixians tried to maintain their rigid formation, but against pilots trained in three-dimensional combat using gravity manipulation, they might as well have been standing still. "Mom," Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "Their flagship is launching reinforcements, reading at least 300 fighters incoming." Rodriguez checked her tactical display. The massive Zrixian command ship hung in low orbit like a crystalline dagger, disgorging waves of fighters. "Perfect. All units, initiate Lazarus Spiral," she ordered. "Target their launch bays. Let's give them a lesson in human geometry." Phoenix Squadron reformed, their ships creating a twisting pattern of intersecting gravity corridors. To observers below, it looked like a double helix made of starlight and thunder. The Zrixian reinforcements flew right into it. What followed wasn't really a battle. It was physics turned into art. Each human fighter generated its own gravity well, creating a maze of spatial distortions. Enemy ships found themselves pulled in multiple directions at once, their pilots unable to compensate for forces they'd never encountered before. Rodriguez led the charge straight toward the flagship's launch bay. Her fighter danced through the chaos, riding gravitational waves like a surfer in a storm. The neural interface fed her information faster than any organic brain could process it alone, turning thought into action at the speed of synapses. "Impact in 10 seconds, her eye warned. "They're activating their shield grid." "Too late," Rodriguez muttered. "Execute final phase." Phoenix Squadron's formation collapsed inward, their combined gravity wells creating a singularity point directly in front of the flagship's shields. The massive energy barrier flickered and failed as space itself twisted around it. "All units, weapons free. Show them why they call us Phoenix." 30 fighters fired as one, their hybrid weapons turning the launch bay into a canyon of twisted metal and crystalline shards. Secondary explosions chained through the flagship's hull as its own fighters, caught in the gravitational chaos, crashed into their mothership. Rodriguez pulled up sharply, her squadron following in perfect formation as the flagship's entire port side erupted in flames. Behind her, the massive ship began to list, its crew never trained for the kind of damage humans could inflict. "Phoenix lead to command," she reported, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. "Phase 3 complete. The Zrixians just learned why you don't challenge humanity's control of our own skies. Below her, the Pacific Ocean reflected the burning wreckage of alien ships like falling stars. The battle was far from over, but Earth had just shown the galaxy that humanity's fury was more than just words. It was a force of nature itself. Lieutenant William Ghost Harrison sat in the dimly lit PSOIWOP's chamber beneath the Pentagon, his fingers dancing across holographic controls as he orchestrated humanity's mental assault. Around him, banks of quantum processors analyzed Zrixian neural patterns, searching for weaknesses in their collective psyche. "Send the next package," he ordered, his voice rough from too many hours without sleep. "Let's show them what they're really up against." The transmission began. Footage from humanity's bloodiest conflicts, carefully curated to exploit the alien psychological vulnerabilities. The Battle of Thermopylae played across one screen, showing how humans fought even in the face of overwhelming odds. Another displayed the siege of Stalingrad, demonstrating humanity's ability to turn defeat into victory through sheer determination. "Sir," Specialist Monica Reeves called out from her station, "we're detecting significant spikes in Zrixian neural activity. Their command structure is showing signs of stress." Harrison nodded, a predatory smile crossing his face. "Good. Time for Phase 2. He pulled up his prize footage, recordings from Special Forces training camps worldwide. Navy SEALs performing underwater demolitions, Rangers conducting midnight raids, SAS troops surviving in brutal conditions. "What makes us different," he narrated as the transmission continued, "isn't our technology or our numbers. It's that every human is a potential warrior. We don't just train soldiers. We create survivors." The neural monitoring stations lit up like Christmas trees. The Zrixians, who evolved from hive-minded crystal formations, couldn't comprehend a species that combined individual thinking with collective action. Each piece of footage showed humans working together while thinking independently, a paradox their rigid minds struggled to process. "They're trying to block our transmissions," Reeves reported, excitement creeping into her voice. "But they can't counter all our frequencies at once. We're still getting through." Harrison's smile widened. "Perfect. Show them the children." The next sequence began. Footage from martial arts dojos worldwide. 6-year-olds breaking boards with perfect form. 10-year-olds executing complex kata. Teenagers sparring with the precision of seasoned warriors. To the Zrixians, whose offspring remained in crystalline stasis until maturity, the sight of human children training for combat was incomprehensible. "Neural patterns are showing extreme distress," another analyst called out. "Their command structure is experiencing cascading uncertainty responses." "Now for the knockout punch," Harrison muttered. He keyed in the final sequence, a compilation of humanity's greatest comebacks. The moon landing, achieved with less computing power than a modern phone. The eradication of diseases that once decimated populations. Cities rebuilt after natural disasters, stronger than before. But between these triumph stories, he wove in darker footage. Nuclear tests, orbital weapons platforms, experimental aircraft that seemed to deny physics itself. The message was clear. Humanity could create or destroy with equal skill. "Sir," Reeves exclaimed, "we're detecting widespread command and control disruptions throughout their fleet. Their neural networks are showing signs of..." "Is that fear?" Harrison checked the readings himself. The Zrixian command structure was fracturing, their hierarchical psychology unable to handle the revelation that they faced a species that didn't just fight. They lived for challenge, trained from childhood, and turned every defeat into a lesson. "Send the final message," he ordered. "Let's give them something to really think about." The transmission shifted to live footage from the ongoing space battle. Zrixian ships falling to human tactics they couldn't comprehend. Their finest warriors outmaneuvered by pilots who treated physics as suggestions rather than laws. And through it all, the clear message that humanity was just warming up. "Message from Dr. Sullivan." "Sir," Reeves announced. "She says the Zrixian fleet is showing signs of disorganization. Their rigid command structure is breaking down. Harrison leaned back in his chair, satisfaction evident in his tired features. Tell her Phase 4 is complete. The Zrixians just learned something their empire never prepared them for. Humans don't just break physical laws, we break psychological ones too. And we're damn good at both. On his main screen, the Zrixian neural patterns continued to spike erratically. Their greatest weakness wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their inability to comprehend a species that turned adaptation itself into a weapon. Commander Rebecca Wraith Thompson watched the holographic display of the asteroid belt with the focused intensity of a predator. 20 years of asteroid mining experience had taught her one thing. Space rocks were more than just obstacles. They were opportunities. Mining charges set on targets Alpha through Echo. Her XO reported from the stealth corvette's bridge. Mineral composition is perfect for electromagnetic disruption. Thompson nodded, her augmented eyes tracking the movement of Zrixian patrol ships through the belt. They were still searching in standard search patterns, their rigid training making them predictable. Poor bastards didn't even realize they were already surrounded. Begin Operation Rockslide, she ordered. Let's show them why they call me Wraith. Her fleet of stealth mining ships, hidden within hollowed-out asteroids, powered up their modified engines. Each vessel was a hybrid of human mining tech and reverse-engineered alien propulsion. Ugly, efficient, and absolutely lethal in the right hands. First wave, execute scatter pattern Delta, Thompson commanded. Make them think the asteroids are just shifting naturally. The mining charges detonated silently in the vacuum of space, sending clouds of mineral-rich debris drifting toward the Zrixian formation. Their crystalline hulls began to sparkle as the electromagnetic particles made contact, creating a false sense of security. They're not even trying to avoid the debris, her XO noted with a grin. They think their shields can handle simple space rocks. Thompson allowed herself a small smile. That's because they never had to deal with humans who spent centuries learning how to crack open mountains. All units, execute Phase 2. The real assault began. Her mining ships emerged from their asteroid hideouts, each one trailing specially prepared mineral clouds that didn't just block sensors. They ate through crystalline structures at the molecular level. Multiple Zrixian ships reporting shield failures, Tactical announced. Their hulls are beginning to deteriorate. Now they know why we're the galaxy's apex predators, Thompson muttered. We don't just adapt to our environment. We turn it into a weapon. The Zrixian formation broke apart as ships tried to escape the corrosive debris clouds. They fired blindly into the asteroid field, their advanced targeting systems confused by the electromagnetic interference. Each shot that hit an asteroid just created more debris, making their situation worse. Commander, her XO called out. They're trying to reform at Sector 7. Perfect. Spring the trap. Thompson's fingers danced across her controls. Show them what happens when you corner a human in their own hunting ground. Hidden charges throughout the asteroid field detonated in sequence, creating a cascading wave of destruction. Asteroids collided and shattered, turning the entire sector into a navigational nightmare. But Thompson's crews, trained in zero-G mining operations, moved through the chaos like ghosts. All ships, weapons-free, she ordered. Use attack pattern Wraith 3. Her fleet struck from multiple directions at once, using modified mining lasers that could cut through crystalline hulls like butter. Each ship moved independently, using techniques developed over centuries of space mining operations. The Zrixians, used to fighting in rigid formations, couldn't adapt fast enough. Their flagship is attempting to coordinate a counterattack, Tactical reported. Thompson watched as the massive crystalline vessel tried to rally its scattered forces. Not today. Execute Wraith's gambit. The trap was sprung. Dozens of seemingly dormant asteroids suddenly came to life. They weren't rocks at all, but camouflaged weapon platforms that had been waiting patiently for this moment. The Zrixian flagship found itself caught in a crossfire of mining lasers and kinetic weapons. Direct hits confirmed, her XO announced with satisfaction. Their command and control structure is completely disrupted. Thompson watched as the surviving Zrixian ships retreated in disarray. The asteroid belt, once their pride as a spacefaring empire's conquest, had become their graveyard. All because they never considered that humanity's primitive mining experience could be turned into a tactical advantage. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them the asteroid belt is secured. The Zrixians just learned why you don't fight humans in the environment we spent centuries mastering. We don't just survive in space, we make it ours." The debris of crystalline ships drifted through the asteroid field, a glittering testament to humanity's ability to turn any environment into a battlefield. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth's children were the ultimate space predators. Dr. Marcus "Spark" Davidson stood before the captured Zrixian science team in the depths of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, his presentation displaying human biological data across holographic screens. The crystalline aliens shifted uncomfortably in their containment field, their compound eyes fixed on images they couldn't quite comprehend. "You see," Davidson began, pacing with the energy that had earned him his nickname, "your biggest mistake wasn't underestimating our technology. It was misunderstanding our biology." He pulled up a three-dimensional image of human DNA alongside Zrixian genetic structures. "Your species evolved for perfection, each generation a careful refinement of the last. But humans," he grinned, tapping his temple, "we evolved for chaos." The lead Zrixian scientist, its crystalline form refracting light in patterns of distress, spoke through the translator. "Impossible. Your species shows signs of numerous biological inefficiencies. Your energy consumption is wasteful, your reproduction random, your healing processes unnecessarily complex." Davidson laughed, the sound echoing through the laboratory. "Exactly. And that's precisely why we're beating you." He activated another display, showing human cellular regeneration in real time. "Watch this." The screen showed human tissue responding to damage, stem cells accelerating their activity under stress. "While your species seeks perfection, we embrace imperfection. Every inefficiency you see is actually an adaptation waiting to be triggered." He pulled up combat footage from the ongoing space battle. "See that pilot? Her body is experiencing forces that should kill her. But instead, the display split, showing the pilot's biological readings. Her inefficient systems are adapting in real time, rerouting blood flow, strengthening muscle tissue, sharpening neural responses." The Zrixian scientists conferred briefly, their crystalline forms vibrating in what human xenobiologists had identified as confusion. But such adaptations are unpredictable, dangerous. How do you maintain species coherence? "That's the beauty of it," Davidson replied, bringing up new data streams. "We don't. Every human is an experiment in evolution. Every stress we survive makes us stronger, not just individually, but as a species." He highlighted sections of human genetic code. "These junk sequences you dismissed. They're not junk. They're potential waiting to be unleashed." He moved to the next display, showing human adrenaline responses. "Take our fight or flight response. You thought it was a primitive survival mechanism, didn't you? But watch what happens when we combine it with our technology." The screen showed neural interface data from Earth's fighter pilots. "Our primitive stress responses actually enhance our reaction times with advanced tech. We're not just using your stolen technology. We're becoming one with it in ways your rigid biology never could." The lead scientist's crystalline structure clouded slightly, a sign of deep distress. "But your species requires rest, recovery. Your bodies consume enormous resources maintaining these adaptations." Davidson's grin widened. "Exactly. And that's why we're the perfect warriors." He brought up comparison charts. "Your species evolved for efficiency, for perfection. But the universe isn't perfect. It's chaos. And humans? We're chaos incarnate." He displayed footage from the asteroid belt battle. "Look at our mining ships. Your sensors classified them as primitive because they're ugly, improvised, inefficient. But that very inefficiency makes them adaptable. We can repair them with whatever's at hand, modify them on the fly, use them in ways their designers never imagined. The Zrixian scientists watched in silence as Davidson pulled up their own medical scans. Your crystalline forms are beautiful, perfect, efficient, but they're also rigid, unchanging. You can't adapt fast enough. Every human is different, every response unique. We're not just a species, we're an endless array of evolutionary possibilities. He leaned closer to the containment field, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Want to know the real reason you're losing this war? It's because you picked a fight with the only species in the galaxy that gets stronger when you try to break it. Davidson turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and those neural blocks you tried to put in your soldiers to prevent fear. We figured out how to hack them. Turns out, fear is just another tool in humanity's arsenal. Sweet dreams. As he walked away, the Zrixian scientists huddled closer together, their crystalline forms dimming in the universal gesture of dread. They had come seeking to understand their enemy's strength, only to discover that humanity's greatest weapon was its very imperfection. Special Agent Jessica Cipher Blackwood hadn't slept in 3 days, but the stims in her bloodstream kept her mind razor-sharp as her fingers danced across neural interfaces. The quantum communications hub beneath Seattle hummed with power as she launched another wave of digital insurgency into the Zrixian networks. Status report on Operation Wildfire, she demanded, her augmented eyes scanning multiple data streams simultaneously. Her second-in-command, Marcus Torres, pulled up a galactic map covered in spreading red indicators. 17 separate uprisings confirmed across the Empire. The Proxima colonies just overthrew their crystalline overseers. The Centauri system is in full revolt. Blackwood allowed herself a tight smile. Show me the mimetic spread patterns. The display shifted, showing how Earth's carefully crafted message of rebellion was propagating through conquered systems. Each transmission carried a piece of humanity's secret weapon. Hope. Ma'am, Torres called out. We're detecting massive information requests from the Arcturus sector. The slave species there are demanding access to human combat tactics. Give them everything, Blackwood ordered. Combat manuals, guerrilla warfare guides, Earth's military history, especially the successful revolutions. Show them how humanity threw off its own chains throughout history. Her team worked with practiced precision, transmitting data packets through quantum channels the Zrixians couldn't block. Each transmission carried not just tactical information, but something more powerful, footage of Earth's successful resistance. New development, her AI assistant reported. The Rigel Systems synthetic workforce is using our encryption protocols to coordinate their uprising. They've adapted our underground resistance techniques to their digital networks. Blackwood nodded, initiating the next phase of her attack. Perfect. Time to show the Empire why information is the ultimate weapon. Launch Protocol Prometheus Unbound. The quantum networks lit up as her team released their masterstroke. The viral AI construct based on human neural patterns. Unlike the rigid, crystalline logic of Zrixian systems, this AI thought like a human. Adaptable, unpredictable, creative. The virus is evolving faster than their defenses can adapt, Torres reported with satisfaction. Their entire command and control structure is fragmenting. They've never encountered code that can think laterally. Because they never understood why humans tell stories, Blackwood murmured, watching the Empire's communication networks dissolve into chaos. Every slave species in their empire is sharing Earth's resistance tactics now. They're learning that strength isn't about perfection, it's about adaptation. A priority alert flashed across her main display. Sir, one of her analysts called out. The Zrixian homeworld is trying to initiate emergency protocols. They're attempting to shut down all interstellar communications. Too late, Blackwood smiled, her fingers flying across the interface. Show them what happens when you try to silence a human hacker. Execute final strike. Her virus, now evolved through exposure to thousands of alien systems, struck at the heart of the Empire. It didn't just break through their defenses. It turned their own communication network into a weapon. Every crystalline display in their capital suddenly showed the same image: humans and alien slaves fighting together against their oppressors. Message from the Andromedan colonies. Torres announced. They're declaring independence using Earth's Declaration of Independence as a template. The translation is creative, but the sentiment is clear. Blackwood stood, her augmented vision taking in all the data streams at once. The Zrixian Empire, built on rigid hierarchy and perfect order, was being torn apart by the very chaos they despised. Every slave species was learning, adapting, evolving, becoming more human in their resistance. "Send word to Dr. Sullivan," she ordered. "Tell her Phase 7 is complete. The Empire isn't just falling, it's being reborn, and humanity is writing the new code." As reports of successful uprisings flooded in from across the galaxy, Blackwood allowed herself a moment of pride. The Zrixians had built their empire on the belief that perfection meant strength. Instead, they'd learned that humanity's greatest export wasn't technology or weapons. It was the very concept of revolution itself. "Ma'am," Torres said softly, "what do we do when the Empire finally falls?" Blackwood's smile turned thoughtful. "We do what humans have always done, Marcus. We help them build something better from the ashes. After all, that's another thing we're good at, turning endings into beginnings." Admiral David Ironclad Mitchell stood at the podium in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly, Earth's gravity-defying architecture seamlessly blending with alien crystalline structures. Below him, representatives from 18 species, including the humbled Zrixians, waited for his address. The weight of history pressed down harder than his medals ever could. 3 months ago, he began, his voice carrying across the chamber. The Zrixian Empire came to Earth expecting submission. Instead, they found something they'd never encountered in their 1,000 years of conquest, a species that turned adversity into advantage. The Zrixian delegation shifted uncomfortably, their crystalline forms catching the light. Their High Chancellor, once the Empire's supreme ruler, now sat as an equal among former slaves. "But today, we're not here to celebrate victory," Mitchell continued, his weathered face serious. "We're here to build something unprecedented. A galactic community based not on dominance, but on diversity. Not on perfection, but on potential." He gestured to the massive window behind him, where Earth hung like a blue jewel among the stars. Construction ships from a dozen species worked together, building the first phase of humanity's space elevator. The Zrixian Empire failed not because their technology was inferior, but because they never understood a fundamental truth about the universe. Mitchell's eyes swept the chamber. Strength doesn't come from perfection. It comes from adaptation, from learning, from changing. Dr. Sullivan, seated in the front row, nodded slightly. She'd helped write this speech, knowing its importance for humanity's future role in the galaxy. "Look around you," Mitchell commanded. "Every species in this chamber brings unique strengths. The Zrixians' crystalline technology, the Andromedans' mastery of quantum physics, the Centaurians' biological innovations. Humanity doesn't seek to dominate these gifts. We seek to learn from them, to grow with them." He pulled up a holographic display showing the ongoing reconstruction efforts across formerly imperial worlds. "Already, we're seeing what cooperation can achieve. Human adaptation combined with Zrixian precision. Earth's chaos theory melding with crystalline computing. We're not just rebuilding. We're evolving together." The chamber was silent, dozens of alien species transfixed by the possibility of a different future. Even the Zrixian High Chancellor's crystalline form had taken on a warmer hue, their species' expression of hope. "Therefore," Mitchell's voice strengthened, "I propose the formation of the Galactic Cooperative. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, but a community of equals, each species contributing their strengths, learning from others' innovations, growing stronger together." He activated another hologram, showing the proposed structure. "Earth will serve not as rulers, But as mediators, we understand both chaos and order, both war and peace. Our very nature makes us uniquely suited to bridge the gaps between different species, different philosophies. The High Chancellor stood, their translator converting crystalline vibrations to speech. The Empire. We accept this proposal. Our perfection blinded us. Perhaps it is time we learn to embrace imperfection, as humans do. Mitchell smiled, genuine warmth in his expression. Chancellor, your people's technology and wisdom will be invaluable. The Empire's fall doesn't have to mean the end of Xrixian contribution to galactic civilization. One by one, representatives from other species stood, signaling their agreement. Each had seen firsthand how humanity fought against oppression. Now they would see how humans built peace. Let this day mark not just the end of the Xrixian Empire, Mitchell declared, but the beginning of something greater. A galaxy where strength comes from unity, not uniformity, where different paths lead to shared prosperity. He looked down at Dr. Sullivan, Colonel McKenna, Major Rodriguez, and all the others who had helped humanity survive its trial by fire. Their victory had opened the door. Their wisdom would help build what came next. The universe is chaos, Mitchell concluded, but together we can forge that chaos into creation. Not perfect, not flawless, but alive with possibility. That is humanity's ultimate gift to the galaxy, not our fury, but our hope. As the chamber erupted in approval, Mitchell allowed himself a quiet moment of reflection. They had shown the galaxy humanity's fury. Now they would show something even more powerful, humanity's capacity for transformation. The stars seemed brighter through the chamber's window. A new age was beginning, and humanity would help write its story, one of endless adaptation, eternal growth, and infinite potential.